Hey everybody, it's Seim, and I'm excited. Today, I'm going to show you how to use Pictorialist. Pictorialist stems from the photographers of the early 1900s and of course beyond, but with early legends like Stieglitz and Coburn. And essentially, it was the side of photography that said no, this isn't just a technical thing. It's not just a scientific instrument. We inherited this from the painters, and it's about making creative choices and printing and using effects to make beautiful fine art. And that's what they did. And in today's world where AI is kind of faking everything and photographers are feeling, I think, really frustrated a lot of times, lenses are sharper than ever, but images are more sterile and plain than ever. We need something that pulls out that emotion. That's why we developed Pictorialist. We've all taken a photo and we felt something here, and then the photo never quite worked out. Once you start using Pictorialist, you're going to actually go back to a lot of photos, and you're going to find that those photos that you couldn't ever quite get what you felt when you shot them, now you're going to be able to. This is so cool, and the more you start doing pictorial work, the more you'll actually start shooting in camera for the kind of style you're actually visualizing and going to edit. But you're also going to find that you can do amazing things on photos before that maybe you just couldn't quite get that edit right. The first thing we want to do is install Pictorialist. There's also more details about doing this on the help page, but let me just cover it really briefly. You can either install directly from your actions panel. In my case, I have it set up over here and I can expand it. If you don't have any of your panels, you can always go to Window and you can turn on whatever panel you need, like actions. From the action panel, I can click the three little dots here and I can actually load actions from right here. But if you go to your download of Pictorialist, which is going to look about like this, you probably don't even need to do that. If you just go to whatever version, so use your CC version, or if you're using the old legacy pre-subscription version, use your CS6 version, you can just go there, and normally you can just double click the action file, or if it's not associated, you can usually drag it down and open it by dragging it over the Photoshop icon, just like you would open a photo, and you can see that works too. So here's Pictorialist right here. I'm going to drag it to the top since we're using this right now, and here is our Pictorialist set. Now you may notice there's one more thing in the download, and this is actually important because Pictorialist is doing some beautiful and amazing things with textures as it's automating all this process and doing all the hard work and building your layers and letting you have the control. Go back to your download folder that you unzipped and go to those pattern files, and there they are right there. You can do the same thing. You can double click these or just drag them in. Let's just double click these and we'll see that they should open in Photoshop. Now what happened? Nothing happened in Photoshop because we don't have the patterns panel open. You can see over here that I have patterns in a flyout, but just in case, you can go to Window and Patterns, and it's going to open up that patterns. And you can see right there that here's the Seim action textures 4.1. Once the patterns are installed, you don't have to keep that panel open because Pictorialist is automatically going to use those patterns. It just needs them installed as support files. So it's super simple. You have the patterns installed, you have your actions installed. Now you can just go to town. I like to keep my actions panels a flyout here. One really important thing, use button mode. A lot of people will load up actions and they'll just have this list. And you can take this list and you can select an action, and then you can go down here and push play, or you can delete a group, you can make new actions. But this is like the program mode for where we make actions. To use actions, what you want to do is click the three little dots right here and just click button mode, and boom, now we're in this one-click button mode. Everything's color-coded and nice and clean. That was really easy. Now you're ready to go. Every time you open Photoshop, everything should just be there and ready. Now let's use it. It's really simple. Let's look at the actions and workflows and just how simple it is. Remember, when you run Pictorialist, this is an advanced vertical editing system. It's building layers with all these steps. There's hundreds of steps as you go through these actions that would take you hours. You want to do run first. Always click this first. You're going to see down here, it's going to build our base layers, right? So it's putting plates and mods and all these things. It's setting everything up in the correct order so that you can do these advanced edits automatically as you click through Pictorialist. And this is the similar vertical editing system that all my other action packs like Loomis, like Blackroom, like Emulsion use. And it just makes life easier. Everything's organized for you. There's no hassle. There's no flattening. It's not like a plugin where you open it and then you run an effect and you just get a flat layer. When you use a native editing tool like my Photoshop actions, they're designed correctly and they leave all your layers so you can use them as is, as I'll show you or you can edit and manipulate and add mods, and I'm going to show you how to do that. You'll notice that when I did the run first action, it did our base, and we see a little bit of grain and a little bit of editing going on, but there hasn't been a lot of changes yet. This isn't your effect, this is just your setup. Let's go to the first one then. Let's run Hamilton. You can see that with each primary green action, a primary effect, and these are effects inspired by the techniques and styles of different pictorialists. In your workflow, you can choose any image and run any one of these. And it's not trying to make your image look exactly like Stieglitz, exactly like Hamilton, because we all have our style. What it's doing is it's building an effect that's inspired by those and meant to give you that kind of ambience, that kind of feel, and then you can take it where you want it. Okay, so let's start by running Hamilton. Remember, with these primaries, you're always going to run a parent action first, and then the mixes underneath that are ways to remix it. So don't go straight to mix rich, right? You run Hamilton and then you say, hey, let's remix Hamilton to rich. Let's remix Hamilton to New York, New York. And you can stack these. You could run Hamilton, then Stieglitz, then Orton, and you might get some crazy effects from that. But always run the green component, your primary effect, first. So it's really simple. You just do your run first action. You choose your main effect, and you remix it if you want to, or, as we'll look at in a minute, you go down and you can remix things any way you want by playing with the layers or by going and adding additional mods. I'll show you that in just a minute. Okay, we've run Hamilton. You can see that it's putting everything, as all tools in Pictorialist will do, within this primary icon folder. You can collapse it, you can merge it, you can do whatever you want. Let me turn it on and off so you can just see how the effect has worked. All the layers off, all the layers on. This is a beautiful, glowy, perfect effect for these kind of ambience portraits and environmental scenes. That's the kind of work that Hamilton did. Now, in a world of super sharp lenses and Facebook, sometimes people say, like, no, I want it more sharp. We're used to everything being so razor sharp. And the photographers throughout history, they weren't like that. They were like, no, blurriness gives us atmosphere. In film and in cinema, you'll see this as well. But blurriness is a relative term. You don't want a blurry photo, you just want a photo with atmosphere. And Pictorialist gives you the control over that as well. You can come down here and you'll see all the layers are organized. So we have these different layers, and the best way to build a workflow using Pictorialist is just to run things. Run Hamilton, and if you want to, do a snapshot, right? Click the little snapshot icon in the history panel, and here's our first Hamilton, right? Now, let's run the rich mix. This is a remix mod of Hamilton. So we've ran Hamilton first, now we're doing the remix mod. Now we have this even more warm, rich, intense effect that you saw in a lot of David Hamilton's portraits. And this, again, is really cool. Let's snapshot this again, and you can see now I have two snapshots. You don't have to do this, by the way. This is just a fun way to experiment if you want to quickly try different variants, right? So here's the Hamilton Basic. Here is the Hamilton Rich. The more you're comfortable in Photoshop, the more you'll want to play with the layers, and that's absolutely fine. You can go down here and you'll see a lot of these layers have masks, but most of the work has been automated. You can see a lot of these plates already have masks built in. This is the beauty of Pictorialist, is it's doing very, very advanced editing. All these layers have different blending modes. I couldn't even sit down and build this same effect in an hour because these effects are so complicated. They're so much further beyond Lightroom, Capture One, or Raw Edit. And people ask me a lot of times, oh, can I do this in Lightroom? Can I do this in Capture One? No, you absolutely can't. There's no way to get this advanced level of layer editing. This is why we still need to be going to layer editors. And I see a lot of photographers either lazy, like I don't want to go to Photoshop, or afraid of Photoshop, and you don't need to be. When you have a tool like this, it's so easy to use Photoshop and you don't have to be overwhelmed. If you've watched my other videos or my Photoshop Fast course that focuses on what you need as a photographer in Photoshop, you know this. But even if you're just watching this video, you're using Photoshop for the first time and you're using Pictorialist, you're going to find that it's really simple. Don't overthink all these layers. The point is that you have as much control as you want. So if you want to go down, here's the lens effect, for example, right? And you can see that it's highlighted in purple, and it's all under this mislayers group right here. These are all the primary blurs that are going on. And so you could go through here on a simple level, you could adjust opacity. You can click on any of these layers and just go up here and turn the opacity up and down. You can turn a layer on and off if you want. You're non-destructive all the way. Everything's built within this group. In fact, you'll see here as you go along and edit that right within the actions, without even have to go down to layers, if you don't want to mess with that, you can just click the opacity settings. So this changes the master intensity of the effect from 50 to 75 to 100, and you can quickly change it that way. You do not have to overthink these layers. You don't even have to touch them if you don't want. We have a beautiful Hamilton look on this portrait, but let's say, okay, I'm putting this on my Instagram, I'm putting this on Facebook, like that soft glow is actually gonna come out blurry to those people because it crushes the file so much. Or maybe for whatever reason you just want it a little sharper. We've got that covered for you too. There's actually a mod action. Underneath all these main ones, you see all these different mods. Understand that most of these master effects, these are super combo effects. So these are running entire workflows that build layers, that are running mod actions. Each one of the primary effects is built of all this stuff. So you don't have to use the mods either, but you can play with them as much as you want. The mod you probably will use at times is the sharper subject mod. If I just click that, you can see that it's going to go through and it's going to isolate the subject a little bit, which will of course change the density of the light and things like that a touch, but it's going to make our subject a little bit sharp. You don't need to use this. This is just another option. Now, one important thing, if you're working through and you're saying, hey, this is good, but I want to try a completely different look, what do? Well, you could go and you could run the Stieglitz. Any of the green actions you can run at any time after you've done the run first, okay? And it would give you this black and white. Don't go straight to Stieglitz dark, right? Because you need the primary Stieglitz effect so it builds the Stieglitz related layers. Now you could also run Stieglitz dark. So what are we doing? Now we're stacking all this stuff and it's getting a little weird. There's nothing wrong with mixing and matching, but each one of these green actions is a complete workflow of a whole bunch of different steps and actions in and of itself. And so play with them, but if you don't like it, just do this. All you have to do is go up here and reset Pictorialist, and it's going to erase all the settings and put you back to that base point, at which point I could say again, hey, let's start again with Hamilton. Let's not stick with this one photo though. Let's look at some of the other ones. I'm going to go straight to another photo. Again, clicking quickly, the run first action, it's really that easy. It's a click and it's another click. Now, where do we want to start? Let's do a Stieglitz on these tomatoes, all right? And we're just going to run Stieglitz, and there it is. It automated everything and put all our layers in place. Now, let's do dark though. No, I'm going to do Stieglitz tarnish. This will bring a little more texture, a little more grit, and there we go. Boom. Just like that. 3 clicks in, 30 seconds, hours of editing. I can't emphasize, if you're only using a raw editor, you're really missing out. Do not be afraid of using your layer editors. And that's why I actually make these to work all the way back to CX6 for people that maybe they're a Capture One user, they don't subscribe to cloud, or they don't want to, and they have Photoshop CS6. I build all my actions to also work in Photoshop CS6 because they're not dependent on all these AI tools or generative fill or anything like that. These are native tools working with your photo and letting you edit it the way you want. You have a visualization, it's always better, but you know what I'm going to do? I am going to click the snapshot here and I'm going to reset. Let's reset, and that's going to take us back to our color image. And I'm going to go down to the Seim mix. The Seim mix, and I am no legendary pictorialist or anything like that, but this is where I combined a workflow of some of my favorite tools and textures and colors. And you can see here that this takes a very plain image of tomatoes at a restaurant and really kind of gives us this drama. Now, can we do more? Yes, we can mod it. Let's go and darken the edges more. I'm going to do icon edges, and that's going to give me even darker edges around this. I could do something like a black mist mod. Any of these mod tools that you click, it's just going to add a new layer, which you can then turn up or down. And if you don't like it, remember, you can always reset. In this case, I think it's a little too soft. I'm just going to click that layer, go down and click the trash can, and delete that layer. We're moving fast. Let's go ahead and go to another image. Do I take every photo I edit to Photoshop? No, I'm going to do a session of portraits and things like that. And I'm going to edit those with Filmist, and I'm going to edit those in Lightroom or in Capture One. And then I'm going to take my best photos and refine those in Photoshop, whether I'm doing a black and white in Blackroom or an emulsion platinum tone, or whether I'm using something like Pictorialist to really bring out drama and atmosphere. Let's come in here. Here's these boats on the lake. It's just been lightly processed in Lightroom, and I just opened it right up. Let's do the run first action. Again, always do that run first action. It's one of the most common support things I get. That's why it says run first. Start that. It builds all your vertical editing layers, puts them in place. I'm going to go Orton on this. Let's do the Orton effect. And you're going to see that it's just going to do this beautiful Orton overlay. And remember, you can use these opacity layers to turn it up or down if it's a little too intense. And then you can individually. You'll find that most groups, you notice how a lot of these layers say plus minus. The idea is it's kind of prompting you, hey, play with this a little, right? So if I go to paper softness, this can get blurry fast if I turn it up too high, but you can see how it's affecting the overall kind of glow, highlight glow of the entire thing. Like I said, you don't have to do these, but the more comfortable you get in here, the more you're going to be like, oh, I can do layers. This is cool. And just start with those layers that say plus minus on them. A lot of the layers already have masks on them, so you can adjust your masks if you know about masks. But if you're new to Photoshop, don't overthink it. Just enjoy editing with Pictorialist. In this case, I'm going to do a remix though. We ran Orton first, right? And I'm going to remix it to Orton contrast, which is going to give me a little more of a poppy kind of look. And this is nice. It's saturated, but not fake saturated, and it's really cool. Let's do one bonus image before we wrap up. I'm actually going to go back to Lightroom. It could be the same in Capture One, but the bottom line is here, I want you to understand that you could have maybe edited an image in Lightroom. Maybe you did your basic batch edit, and now you want something more. You can actually do amazing things in Pictorialism with images that are very simple and understated by bringing that atmosphere in. I'm just going to go to Lightroom and do Control E. Okay, so that's going to open this in Photoshop. You may have it set up slightly differently if you use Capture One or whatever your preferred raw editor is, but get your file into Photoshop and let's just do the run first. On this one, we're going to go to Coburn. Coburn was pretty intense and unafraid to use motion and blurs and things like that. And it actually produces some really neat results. So we're going to run the base Coburn, and you can see this, how we've taken this simple tree and we've really kind of done this classic Pictorialist thing where we're kind of mixing blurs and tones. Let's do Coburn Deep on this, and it's just going to mix it up a little bit differently like this. Now you might look at this and say, well, there's a little too much blur. Okay, well, don't be afraid to go to your blur layers. Most of those are within the mist layers, the purple highlighted ones. And you'll also find some of these in the mods that were added as part of the Coburn effect. So you can see here, Pictopan plus minus. If I turn this off, it's the one that's providing a little bit of motion blur. So I could quickly go down then and just turn this down a little bit. I could even adjust the mask if I wanted to. Now, if you have questions, leave a comment. I'll do more videos on this. We can get more deep into how to use mods and things like that. Remember, you are using the mods when you're running these. These are advanced workflow actions up here at the top, and they're using all of these support mods. And you can also just play with those and add them yourself to get your own looks. If you run something and it's over the top, turn the layer up or down. If you don't like it, remember, you can always come back and just reset. And of course, you can use Photoshop's built-in snapshot mode. Let's say you get to somewhere you like and you like that, use a snapshot, and then you can quickly come back to that point and continue on from there. Even if you're a non-Photoshop user, everything I've showed you today, you can be up and running this hour and doing this level of edit. Now, when you're done, you can save all this. So if you open from Lightroom and then you can Control Save right now, it's going to save your photo right back into Lightroom. But you have a lot of layers. These are huge files. So one thing, if you're done and you don't need to save a huge file, you can click this right here, Merge to One Layer. Merge to One Layer takes all the edits we've done, and now it's just on one layer, all merged together, so you don't have a mess. Before, after. Now, if you want to come back later and edit that same edit because you spent some time on it, maybe you added some manual mods, it's fine to save all the layers. Just keep that in mind. It is going to increase your file size a lot. Usually when I'm done with an edit, I just merge it and save it because I know that Pictorialist is super fast. And if I come back later and say, no, I want a different variant of this, I can just start from zero and it's only going to take me a few seconds to get where I want. We're compressing hours of editing on images into just a few clicks, which means you then have more time to do the stuff you love and you have more time to edit deeper on more images. So you can take your top 1% from a session, say, no, I'm going to do 6 or 8 or 10 favorites to present to my client, to print, etc. And it's only going to take me 10 minutes. That's the beauty. And that's why actions empower Photoshop like you wouldn't even believe. There's no need to be intimidated by Photoshop or to hold back, because it's awesome. All right, you guys, hope this helped you. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I'm always here to help. Go check out Pictorialist. Like all my products, it's guaranteed. I'll put a link in the comments. All right, peace.